This debate is not about marijuana. It is not about drug policy. It is not about the effectiveness of or the need for medicinal cannabis. It is about safe roads. It is about being confident that the drivers you are sharing highways with are safe. It is about keeping strong laws against driving while impaired. It is about feeling confident that when you or those you love get behind the wheel of a car, they will make it safely home. We already have too many drug-involved fatal crashes. At estimates in September last year, I asked Deputy Commissioner Paul Paisanos about the random drug test results and drug involvement in crashes. He reported that 24%, almost 1 in 4, fatal road crashes, quote, had a drug-associated factor as being involved, and overwhelmingly, in 69% of cases, the drug that was involved was cannabis. Figures provided by Bernard Carlin, Chief, Centres for Road and Maritime Safety for Transport for New South Wales, reported a 40% increase in crash risk associated with cannabis use. This is unsurprising when we consider how cannabis works. We know that cannabis affects both visual and stereo acuity. The practical effect of this while driving is that it makes it difficult to stay within a lane. Cannabis also impacts visual spatial memory, which complicates navigation while driving. If a medicinal cannabis user is taking medication on multiple occasions throughout the day and over a sustained period of time, they may be susceptible to the same impairment experienced by chronic cannabis users, including impairment of concept formation, planning and sequencing, and significant attention and concentration deficits. These impairments, of course, will impact the ability to drive safely. Racing driver Patrick Bedard participated in a controlled experiment in 1980. He reported that, quote, he didn't care about anything as he negotiated a closed course while drug affected, and that, quote, if I were racing, I don't think I'd worry about bouncing off other cars or falling off the track, end quote. And as Car and Driver, the publication which ran the experiment, observed recently, modern-day marijuana, whether medicinal or from the street, is many times more potent than older varieties at the time the test was conducted. Their conclusion, marijuana-affected drivers should stay off the roads. If we could test for these impairments, as we do with the impairment test for alcohol and driving, we could develop safe limits. But such a test is not currently available for cannabis. And indeed, there is significant evidence which indicates that a saliva test, commonly used in random drug testing, will not detect THC taken orally in capsule form. This means that a driver can be severely impaired by a high dose of capsule THC while measuring 0 in saliva testing. So we have issues with both impairment levels and the form in which random drug tests are commonly administered. There are also unresolved questions about the period of time over which cannabis continues to impair the user. A Sydney University review of cannabis driving studies found driving impairment for 5 to 7 hours for those using vaporised cannabis, but some hours longer if the cannabis was taken orally. Both the head of the Centre for Road Safety, Bernard Carlin, and the chair of the Australian Medicinal Cannabis Association, Teresa Nicoletti, in evidence to a committee of this Parliament, acknowledged that there was no scientific consensus and no accepted threshold of how much THC could cause impairment. We know that THC impairs driving skill, in the same way we know that alcohol impairs driving ability. But unlike alcohol, we simply do not, yet, have a valid test for driving impairment for cannabis users. Without this test, this law is unsafe. It makes as much sense to pass this law as it would to lift the ban on drink driving. This legislation seeks to have medicinal cannabis users register with police, the policy apparently being that, acknowledging we have no impairment test, those taking medicine can be trusted to drive, and indeed the 3 strikes test is apparently designed to give users the opportunity to calibrate their dosage. However, this thinking ignores the evidence given by Bernard Carlin to a Legislative Council committee in April last year. He reported on a transport study of over 5,000 drivers and said, quote, "Transport understands," and this of course is Transport for New South Wales, the government's own body, "Transport understands that many users of prescribed cannabis medicine are using their medicines appropriately and are not risking drug driving. However, among those who reported using prescribed cannabis in our research, 54% did not use it as prescribed. This includes the use for recreational purposes, at a higher dose, more frequently than prescribed, or using medically prescribed cannabis without their own prescription. Around 4 out of 5 said they were advised by a medical professional not to drive after using medically prescribed cannabis." And he continued, "Of those who had been advised not to drive, 45% had driven within 6 hours of using medically prescribed cannabis, which may well be while they are impaired, noting medical advice that impairment typically lasts 3 to 8 hours." End quote. A prescription is no guarantee of driving while unimpaired. We already know the impact that cannabis is having on our road toll. None of us, I'm sure, want this figure to increase. But overseas experience suggests that it will. The best comparator is perhaps Colorado, which introduced specific medical cannabis exemptions. They not only saw dramatic increases in the number of cannabis users, but also, sadly, a more than doubling of road deaths from drivers testing positive to cannabis. This law turns back decades of community work to drive down the road toll. It is irresponsible, it is reckless, and it puts at risk the lives of those on the roads. It should not pass.